Hi guys, Pepper Brown here once again, and over the past couple years, I guess, ton of emails and questions from guys all over the place, not just on YouTube, and so many requests from people asking me to do a video about modes, and I really seriously never gave it much thought, but I realized that a lot of you guys have a real sort of mystery, and you don't really understand modes. So I thought I'd throw my hand in at showing you how modes work. I approach it from two different ways, which is kind of my unique approach to modes. The first way is the standard way, which is you think of a major scale. Now, I've been accused of using G too much, so let's use A today. Here's A. Okay, so an A major scale goes like this, right? Okay, so the first note is the root of the A major scale. And we got whole step, half step, and then that's called a lower tetrachord. Whole step linked to the fifth. Whole step, and half step. So we got whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So what's that got to do with modes? Everything, because modes get their sound based on where the whole steps and half steps are laid out. All right? So if I've got A and I go whole step, half step, I'm going to go right? And that's called a lower tetrachord. And that's called a major tetrachord because it's a whole step, half step. And the next one starts a whole step above that. It's the same thing. Whole step, half step. So there's two total tetrachords in a major scale. And the major scale itself, the major scale is the first mode, okay? So this is the first mode, the major scale. And in modal terms, we call that the Ionian mode. Ionian. So this would be A Ionian. This would be G Ionian. B Ionian. Okay, you guys with me so far? That's the Ionian mode, all right? Now, if I'm still on A and I go to the second note of the scale and I play the same scale, but I'm starting from the second note, I'm going to go. It's really the A major scale, isn't it? Starting on the note B. So they call that the B Dorian mode. So the B Dorian mode is the same major scale, the parent major scale. The parent major scale is A major or A Ionian, right? So the B Dorian mode is the same scale as the A Ionian. So we figure that B Dorian, a lot of people play it like this from here at the 7th fret. And then they jump back here. Now this pair of notes here and this pair of notes here are popular, like with guys like Santana. And the Ionian mode is down here. The Dorian mode is here, the B Dorian mode. Back to A, what makes it the A Ionian mode again. So just leave it at that for now, because these modes get very confusing to a lot of guys unless they understand what the hell's going on with the half steps and whole steps. So A Ionian and B Dorian, just focus on those two for the first 10 minutes you're working on this, okay? Because everybody gets really, really confused about modes, and they're really not confusing at all. It's just a matter of a major scale starting on each one of the notes. So you got A Ionian, B Dorian, And the next note would be C sharp. We call that C sharp Phrygian. And the next one would be D. We call that the Lydian mode. And then E is the next note in the A major scale, called the E Mixolydian mode. And then the sixth note of the major scale would be called the Aeolian mode. So the Aeolian mode. And then the F sharp, or G sharp rather, Locrian mode. Back to the A, Ionian mode. So that's how everybody's always taught the modes, is from the parent scale, A major, A Ionian, B Dorian, C sharp Phrygian, D Lydian, E Mixolydian, G sharp Aeolian, F sharp Aeolian, and then G sharp Locrian. Okay, so that's the traditional way that everybody gets explained the modes. And people are still just baffled. What the hell, man? It's like, well, how's that work? You know, I mean, what if I'm playing a minor 7 chord here? Do I play a Dorian over that, or do I play a Phrygian or an Aeolian? I was told Aeolian works over minor. Do I play an Aeolian, F sharp Aeolian? No, you don't. Here's why. All the modes create their own ratio of half steps and whole steps. So the Ionian mode, half step, starts with a whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, major scale. Now, if you take one of these modes, like the B Dorian mode, what are the half steps and whole steps then? We go whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So a Dorian mode has a different arrangement of half steps and whole steps, right? Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, right? Okay, then what you want to do is to hear the difference between the A Ionian and the B Dorian. It's not going to sound too different. Why? Because the parent tonic is always going to be that A. So your ear's always going to be drawn toward this A. So even if you play a B Dorian over that, you're going to hear it as an A major scale no matter what. This is why it's confusing to everybody, because it's always explained this way, and the teachers that explain it this way just assume that you understand what's going on, and if you don't get it, they treat you like you're some kind of dumb shit or something. And they did this to me. So I remember sitting down and trying to figure out the modes myself, and all I did was like, okay, wait a minute. All these modes create a different set of half steps and whole steps. Like if I start on B and play the A major scale, I got a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, right? If I start on C sharp and play the A major scale, it's half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Different one altogether, huh? If I start on D, it goes whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. You see, everything's changing, isn't it? So the modes, by starting on each note of the scale, the modes, each mode creates a different sort of setup of half steps and whole steps. But you can't hear it unless you do the next step, okay? So the next step is you want to start each note of the mode pattern that you learned, from the same note. You want to start it from A. That way you hear what they sound like. So here's an A Ionian. Now we got that B Dorian pattern here. Well, what we want to do is we want to play an A Dorian. So we're going to go A major, A Ionian. Then we want to play an A Dorian. Now, right? A Phrygian. Takes out a whole other characteristic, doesn't it, when you start from the same root? So you got to write these out. Map out the half steps and whole steps and the patterns. So you got A Dorian, A Phrygian, A Lydian, okay, E would be the Mixolydian mode, but we want to play A Mixolydian, so we want to go or an A7 chord. Now, the Mixolydian mode is used a ton by jazz guitarists and blues guitarists alike. And they mix it up with the blues scale. So you got a Mixolydian mode. Right? With the blues scale. So together, then we go to the 4 chord for a D Mixolydian. Back to A7 again for an A Mixolydian. Blues. To the 5 chord, a D9. And you can play an E Mixolydian. Back to the 4 chord. Back to the 1 chord. So that's a real quick example. Anyway, so the Mixolydian is a flat 7. It's a major scale with a flat 7. A Mixolydian. All right. After Mixolydian, we have the 6th tone, Aeolian. So A Aeolian. Okay, so it's a 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7, 1. And you know, of course, Jimmy Page, you know. Okay, Aeolian mode. Aeolian. Okay. Now after Aeolian is what? The Locrian mode. Okay, so what were all those? How do I get all those modes? Well, you got to write them out as far as when you're starting on the parent scale, A. So you got A, Ionian, right? And then the B, Dorian. Okay, C sharp, Phrygian, right? D, Lydian, right? E, Mixolydian, right? Okay, F sharp, Aeolian. And then G sharp, Locrian. Those are all in the key of A. So the major scale creates 7 modes. There's 7 modes from the major scale. The A mode, Ionian, is a major scale. It's got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. When you take the next mode, the Dorian, and you play it from A, the notes, the half steps and whole steps create the notes 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Again, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. The next one, the Phrygian mode, played from A, is 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. Okay? Write this stuff down. If you guys want to learn it, write this stuff down. Write it down. If you guys don't want to learn it, don't write it down. It's simple as that. If you want to learn this shit, write it down. Write out the scale patterns. Write down the flats 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. You got to write it out. And I know a million of you guys are way too lazy to write it out. So if you can't learn it, fuck you, you know? Anyway, here's the Phrygian mode. Then the next one's going to be the Lydian mode. 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. The Mixolydian mode is the same as the major scale with a flat 7. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. The Aeolian mode is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. Okay, and last one is going to be the Locrian mode. 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. That's what gives it that sound. Okay, so that's a brief take on the modes. You got to figure out the half steps and whole steps. And the half steps and whole steps are based on the major scale. So the major scale is whole step, half step, whole step, link, whole step, half step. If you start on the second note of the major scale, all those whole steps and half steps get shifted over, don't they? So then you've got what? Instead of whole step, half step, because the first one is going to be whole step, whole step. Do you see how that works? If you don't see how it works, sit down and rewind this and think about it for a second. All the relationships change. If you take a look at a chart of notes of a scale in lengthwise, and you start on the first note, all the half steps and whole steps will follow whatever scale you're using. Like a major scale will be whole step, half step. If you start on the second note, it'll be whole step, whole step. And if you start on the third note, it'll be half step, whole step, whole step. Every time you change one of the notes, the whole steps and half steps, the pattern becomes a different pattern, doesn't it? So if you have a different pattern starting from the same note, That's how you hear the difference in sound. If you're playing all the patterns from the different degrees of the major scale, your ear's always going to take you back to that parent major scale. So you're really not going to get a full grasp of what the modes are all about. Because, well, I know C Ionian and D Dorian and E Phrygian, and I don't get modes at all. It's because nobody explains it. They think everybody just knows how these patterns work. It's a displacement of the halfsteps and wholesteps that creates the sound. And you got to take the sound from the root and figure out all the fingerings. The beauty of this whole thing is that you know all these fingerings are already if you know the major scale. None of the fingerings are going to be any new fingerings to you. The patterns are going to be the same, just starting from a different note and ending on a different note than the major scale. So you got to really figure out all the formulas, okay? Let's go over the mode formulas again. Ionian, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Dorian, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Phrygian, 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. Okay? Lydian, 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Mixolydian, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Aeolian, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. And Locrian, 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. So the modes are generally grouped into categories of major and minor. Major would be Ionian and Lydian and Mixolydian. Minor would be Dorian, Aeolian, Phrygian, and Locrian. And that's it. Okay, so you got to write them out. Like I said before, it's really easy stuff. It's super, super easy, which is why I probably have never done a video on it. And which is why probably people get confused, is because if you think about these for a few days, you get the grasp of it. It's really not a big deal. Modes are pretty damn easy. You know, there's so much mystery about modes that everybody puts a big, huge, modes. They're like gatekeepers. They don't want to give you the secret. They're just major scales starting on different notes of the scale. And if you take that pattern and start it from the root wherever you want to, you get to hear what it sounds like, okay? So that is called parallel modes. When you take a major scale, then the first mode you start on the same note. And then those are called parallel modes. Parent modes are where you take an A major scale, a B Dorian, C sharp Phrygian. That's the parent mode is an A major scale. So there's two ways of looking at it: parent modes or parallel modes. And until you start doing parallel modes, you don't get it. You just sort of barely understand what's going on. Whether you're just like, everybody's like that. I mean, 99% of all the students I've had are just, what is them modes? I don't get, But the next step is that there's modes from the major scale. There's 7 modes from the major scale, right? Major scale's got 7 notes in it. Each note in the major scale can start a mode from. Likewise, any scale. If you have a melodic minor scale, there's 7 modes in the melodic minor. There's 7 modes of harmonic minor. There's 7 modes of Hungarian minor. There's 7 modes of Romanian minor. There's more modes for all these 7-note scales that you can find. Every note in the scale can have a mode built off it. And that's where you get a lot of really obscure names that people call modes, And different scale books will have different names for different scales. And all these guys are doing is they're taking like melodic minor and create like 7 modes out of it. And they give it some weird name like, B flat Majorsky or something like that, or E flat enigmatic mode. And I've seen thousands of different names for modes that are generated out of normal scales like the melodic minor and harmonic minor. And I just toss all that shit because what I prefer to call it is A melodic minor. Okay, the next one, I call it the second mode of melodic minor. Easy, huh? So we start here. So you got 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. So you can use those against minor 7 chords, right? I'm going to limit this video just to the major scale modes, the diatonic modes. They call them the diatonic. There's a big argument about the word diatonic, what it means. Diatonic means through the tones, and diatonic meaning through the mode or through the scale. And then there's a whole nother newer group of thought of music theoreticians that meaning dyad meaning two, right? And I am more keen to the second theory of diatonic, because if you have a dyad, that's 2 scales or 2 tetrachords, which is what I think the original meaning of a diatonic scale was, 2 tonics, because here's A major tetrachord, here's an E major tetrachord, and together they make the A major scale, right? So here's the tonic, here's the tonic. So if you have this as a tonic, it becomes an E over an A. So the 1 major scale, the E major scale, E is the tonic, and you go up to the 4, and A can be another tonic. 2 tonics, that's what the Lydian mode creates, is it becomes part of both keys. If you take a Lydian chord mode or a chord family, the overtone series produces a 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, sharp 11, and a 13. So it belongs to 2 keys. It belongs to 2 different keys. It belongs to the key of E and the key of A at the same time. So that's what a lot of guys say, that the original Greeks thought the diatonic meant was 2 dyad keys, tonic, right? There's going to be a huge argument about that. People will try to argue me to the death, especially music theoreticians. And for the most part, all the music theoreticians that vehemently have argued with me about theory, I have yet to come across someone who is really, really a superior knowledge in music theory who can actually play. So there you go. And that's my argument against them, is that the classic, you say it with me, you suck. Once again, you suck. That's the classic end all of the argument. Let's see you play, pal. Play it. All right, Pepper Brown, over and out for now.